Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 149 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
And I'm Brian from BadSeedTech. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We had a great chat before this. We haven't had, we used to call it the pre-podcast podcast, where we talked for an hour before the show even started. We haven't had that in a while, so that was a real pleasure.
Nice.
But you do mainly tech stuff on your channel, correct? And that's where people can find you on BadSeedTech. That will be linked in the description down below for those who want to check him out. On top of that will be the Patreon for those who want to have early access to the show for $1. So skip a cup of coffee for one day and you get podcast access. Yay. So yeah, that'll do it. And now let's get into Sea of Thieves. You two have been playing that quite a bit, I believe, lately.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience with that, because I haven't had a chance to play it. I'm going to play it with some patrons next week. But from what I've seen, you tell me if I'm wrong here, it's like, wow, this is fun, but there's not enough there.
Go for it, Brian.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think after you get into it for a couple hours, I mean, first and foremost, if you're going to enjoy it the way it's intended, I feel like you need a proper mic'd up four-man crew. Playing with randoms is frustrating. Going on a solo outing, I feel like can be really frustrating. If you've got a decent mic'd up four-man crew with good communication, it brings a lot to the table in terms of what everyone's role is. Like, you've got your navigator and your captain, and you got your people responding to calls to raise the sails and whatnot. So it's really involved. And when you get in a good rhythm, that's when it really starts to take shape. But yeah, after a while, I mean, after you've plundered a few islands and fought off a few skeleton mobs, a few hours in, you're kind of like, all right, what next? And I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of proper character progression. It's all cosmetic.
Okay.
What do you think?
And it's all really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
A ruby bucket. A bucket. It doesn't do anything except it's made of rubies, and it's fucking $2,000, and you get like 150 for your first quests. Oh, jeez, it's going to take forever. I would agree with all that.
Grind. It's like the end game grind of like a Diablo 3 or a Division, except it's the end game grind right out of the gate. Like the minute you hit the game, you're grinding.
Really interesting. I've never heard a game talked about like that. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, it's there's a lot to it. I mean, the graphics, their interpretation of the graphics is great. For me, it calls back to it feels like I stepped into a 3D world around some of the later Monkey Island titles. Not like the first two, but like a couple of the later games. So the stylized graphics is great. The combination of the stylized graphics in conjunction with the water engine. Holy shit, the water has got to be, it's the best ocean simulation I've seen in a game yet. Easy.
Okay.
Yeah. I also... It does. It actually, I just played Rogue, which has water, and that was one of the first things I looked at. I was like, versus the two. The one thing about Sea of Thieves that I think hits it off is that people need to understand that graphics doesn't always mean like fidelity and high definition textures and so forth. What they do in Sea of Thieves is very intelligent, and that's just they go for that art direction, that particular. There's other games we've seen do that. I know a lot of people are like, "What do you mean it looks cartoony?" You have to like step back and be all. Each game has a particular representation of their graphic systems that they want to deploy. But what amazes me is on the Xbox original and on the Xbox X, there's no aliasing anywhere. No. Like, it's the first game where you'll zoom in and you'll look for like the stair step, the typical. I don't know what anti-aliasing they're using or the solution that they're using, but it's got one of the most excellent cartoon-like feels to it that I've seen in a game, and that's one of the best parts of it. And then you experience a couple quests, and you're like, okay, so what exactly is going on? Like, where's the complexity? Because there's a lot of games out there right now that are online. You jump into them, the complexity is in their gameplay, right? So you get like a PUBG. People will be like, well, there's only 2 maps. Sure. But when you jump in, there's tons of weapons. There's fucking bullet drop. There's all these other things. Fortnite, construction. There's all these other things. Mm-hmm. Right now, with Sea of Thieves, there's a very limited PvP, very, very limited PvE. And then in conjunction, this is a game or a company known for art. Their shit is expensive, so you can't even outfit your sailor, because it's so expensive. And so there's this bump almost. It's like you start and you're all, holy shit, I got to work a shit ton in the most boring elements of the game to get like my character to even look, I guess, somewhat like I would like. And it's a very odd feeling game. It almost feels like they didn't know where to price it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, 60 is ridiculous.
Really?
Ridiculous.
It is. And tell me if you get this vibe from it too. Like the art style is great, and we should probably speak a little bit more on the technical implementation of that, because it blows my mind that the One X can do 60 frames, 4K with no checkerboard. It's actually like a native 4K output. I mean, it runs astoundingly well. But all these set pieces look gorgeous, but they feel like set pieces. When you land on an island, there's no interaction. It's basically just like you've stepped into this styrofoam model of what an island should look like. And I mean, you're right. The actual interaction, the actual gameplay just isn't there yet.
So do you guys think like Sea of Thieves is going to be, I'm going to say like No Man's Sky, and I don't mean it in the terms of emptiness. I'm talking about in a way where it's a platform. We have this game, it's at its base level, and when you build upon it, that's when it's going to get to its true potential a year from now, for example. Because, Karak, I think in your review, you gave it a rating of wait for a year, right?
Yeah, I did, because of the way it was Game Pass and all that kind of stuff. It was really weird pricing. I was like, buy it now or wait, instead of wait for sale, rent, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I did. I definitely said wait. But No Man's Sky, they lied. I truly believe there were some lies. Yes, I don't think there were many lies about where Sea of Thieves was going. It was where gamers were like, they got to be hiding something, because there's no way they'd release a game with only 3 things. No, they did. So I think when you jump into Sea of Thieves, there is that moment where it's like, it is like No Man's Sky, where maybe you feel like you're doing the same things, but No Man's Sky is far more intricate. What happens with Sea of Thieves is, I think, and I've said this before, I'm a little nervous about it, because I think with Game Pass, we wanted proof that Game Pass was an immense value. And I think there's 2 ways to prove it. One, you get a AAA game for $10, and it's an amazing game, right? So let's say Gears of War 4, if you liked that, got released. Forza Horizon, that's a game I think all of us have liked. Forza Horizon, Game Pass, you're like, holy shit, this makes sense. But in a way, Sea of Thieves also proved Game Pass's, I think, the legitimate way it can be used, which is to minimize your risk. Because at $10, you can jump into Sea of Thieves and go, it's not for me, but I only lost $10. Mm-hmm. And so that, to me, is what's interesting. I just don't know if it's going to have any success moving forward to where
Microsoft
they'll
thinks of that?
fill it.
Like, do you think they go like, all right, yeah, we're selling it for $60, but we feel our consumers will look at the Game Pass and go, okay, this makes more sense for this product. Do you think they expect them to do that level of research and weigh out where they should be getting these games from?
No, I think, and the leaks, little rumors have been said that I think they were completely shocked by the low reviews. Wow. I think that if they had been a 9 or a 10, people would be like, okay, $60, yeah, there's not a lot, because you have sort of a preconceived notion of what a 9 out of 10 is. Mm-hmm. Dude, there's a lot of 5s for this game. A lot of reviews that are a 5. And if that's what I think has shocked them versus the price. Now I think you have to look at it and go, what do we do? Which is going to be interesting.
I think it was dangled out there to sell Game Pass. I think it was used to draw attention to Game Pass, no sweat. And Matty, you're right. It's an excellent platform, and they have the potential to build onto it if they did it the right way. I mean, right now you're grinding for money to buy skins. That's basically your only progression.
A bucket.
Yeah, and the problem with it is, it's a solid platform, but the clock is ticking right now. In 3 months, these servers will be barren, dude. That ocean will be empty, I promise. If they don't come out with something that brings, some new element of gameplay or something to keep you coming back, because as it is right now, you experience it a couple times and you've seen it, all of it. There's nothing left to go, I wonder about ... No, it's just, you get out there, you have a good time. For me, it's a light appetizer while I'm waiting for Far Cry to come out.
Okay.
It is also interesting where you'll get people who say, well, there's a raid, right? Or there's this or that. Sure. But that's just an extension of the combat that we've already talked about. Like, people get mad. I'm sure somebody's going to be like, no, Brian, you haven't seen it all. Well, that's correct. That's also like a reviewer, and we've bitched about this prior, Matty, where a developer will be like, this game is 80 hours. Fuck you, it's 80 hours. It's 80 hours if I stood at one corner of your fucking map and I walked parallel in lines like some kind of Johnny Appleseed. But that's not what that's not how you experience the game.
With the data itself, yeah.
Exactly. And I personally believe that gamers shouldn't be a charity. You shouldn't just be like, well, let's hope, and I'm going to give you some cash. It should be at least day one enough to make you go, okay. But I think for a lot of us, No Man's Sky did not have this, where Sea of Thieves does have one particular element, and that's if you haven't done a chat before, if you haven't done a PS4 home, if you haven't done a group get together and Sea of Thieves is your first time, it's going to be a blast for at least a while. Yeah. Because it is unique to get together and you're all fucking, and I had a blast playing the accordion, and I was joking in my review about like a linebacker looking dude playing accordion beside me as I'm sailing, and I was legitimately like, "You're hard diddly dee," you know, we were having a blast. The problem is that if you've experienced that before in another game or what have you, I think it can wear out pretty quickly, and you're left looking at what the meat is, and that meat seems overall to be missing, or at least lean.
So you guys wanted to touch on the art style again, because I was thinking, like, you know, art comes different forms of beauty, right? Like, you can look at Star Wars Battlefront 2, it's like, wow, that's beautiful because of how real it looks, but then you can look at Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'll say, and I think that's beautiful because of its art style. It practically mimics the show itself. And it's also interesting because you got one game, Battlefront 2, which I think is at like 55 gigs, and then you got Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is at like 4 gigs, because it's just all almost like moving images in a way. So what about Sea of Thieves is that standout element to you that really brings about the beauty that you guys were referring to?
Go for it, Brian.
Well, I feel like the one thing that immediately stuck out to me was the realism of the water in contrast to the cartoony graphic styles. But, I mean, for me, really, its color palette, I would kill to see this game in HDR. I understand it's got full HDR support on console, and I think it would look spectacular because even on, a fairly capable PC rig like I have behind me, the colors still seem a little washed, but you can tell there's the potential for some real nice stuff there. But just, I mean, sunrises, sunsets, anything that interacts with the water is absolutely outstanding. And it's because they've opted for this art style, they can squeeze miles of performance out of this thing. Like, it just runs shockingly well because it's not attempting to do photorealism. It's not The Division, you know.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Maddie, what about you? Like, I guess, I just like it for all those reasons. But I mean, do you, Maddie, when you're seeing people looking at it, are you seeing what we're talking about? Or are you actually not
I said it right off the bat. I was making a video about, it was like games I was looking most forward to in 2018. And this is one of them. I said, like, this game has the potential to be like that really popular Twitch game. And I think a lot of streamers were looking for something like that because it's just a fun time with your friends. And I also wonder if down the line we're going to see something like a Siege happen with this where, it gains popularity because then it gets all the content and then people start hopping on board. But we'll talk about that later. I absolutely do see it because when I was talking about it in my video, I just said, like, the art style itself, I think, sells the game in a way where, just like Brian was touching on, they can squeeze a lot of performance out of it, and it can look way better because of that. So I think Brian just pretty much hit the nail on the head and then left us without anything to say.
Yeah, I would say, especially with color palette, you'll have like a Life is Strange, which certainly has a nostalgic color palette for its time. You have Vice City, right? Vice City hit the Miami Vice, no fucking socks in your deck shoes look of every Miami Vice we've ever seen. And I think this game hits it in Rare's typical format. There's a look, and it reminds me of Fable, to be honest, and I don't know what the term would be, but it does look a little bit like Fable in the blockiness. Like everything's got there's no sharp edges on fucking anything in that game. Even your sword is all rounded and beat up, and like everything is got that it's there, not just pasted in look. Because we've seen some games, especially photorealistic, where a character may not look real, and because they sort of pop from the background, none of that happens here. And in fact, it's been difficult at times, like at night, to fight a skeleton because they are organic to the background. Like everything looks somewhat the same, so you'll be fighting, and then at night, like they'll get into some bushes, and you're like, "Well, fuck, man, I can't." Yeah. It's not as easy, to pick them out.
Snakes at nighttime are rough, man.
Snakes
like if you're on
at nighttime are.
Yeah,
I just get poisoned. I pretty much assume I'll try to run away and hope. Yeah, man, it's.
On the console versions,
so good.
Do you guys get the the one thing that really stuck out to me too was like the way the wind interacted with the palm trees when it like blows across the island? Do you guys get the motion of the foliage on the consoles? Does that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
all that's done.
Yeah, I thought they nailed that. I thought it was pretty impressive. And it's not. I noticed your comments on sound design, Karak, and I thought you hit the nail on the head with a lot of that stuff. I love the noise it makes when you get the sail in just the right angle and the wind catches it. Like that is, I think they fucking nailed that, man.
They
so
did.
they got a lot of the aesthetic down. They just need to build from here. Is that what?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Karak said it, man. We need more meat on the bones. I think everybody loves what it is, but it's like, okay, that was an awesome teaser. Like, what else you got? You know?
Because don't they have like 3 guilds or something along those lines where they could build off of that and like a quest system from there?
Okay, so Maddie, no lie, this is a quest. And if people think, man, I want to make sure people understand, like, I'm still playing it. Like, I don't hate the game, but there are some deficiencies that I would love to see Microsoft succeed, because it's already dropping down the Twitch, like who's twitching it, and I don't want to see that. I want to see it do well. So I just want to make sure that's clear. But when playing it, you get 3 quests, and there's basically deliver animals to a person. There is killing some bad guys, and there is digging up treasure. But no lie, you're doing the quests, and when you level up, it doesn't go, ba-da-da, it's more intricate. It says, now there's 2 skeletons. Now there's 2 chickens. Now there's 2 bad guys to fight. That, to me, is, I think, where the big problem comes. Is if they added complexity to it right then, that would probably be fine. But what happens is it feels a little bit, and we've talked about this before, like almost like a random quest generator, like a Radiant quest in a Bethesda game.
Shit, you beat me to it.
Yeah, but less detailed, strangely enough.
Less detailed. Wow.
Yeah.
That's something. That is fucking something. So, what could they add then? That's my thought. Like, you know, I thought they kind of had it where I thought it'd almost be like the Dark Zone Division, right? Like the fun just naturally comes, right? You got this big sea, you're going to encounter players, like it can only be fun, right? And so it's like, what do they add then to fix this? Or not even fix, to make it worth hopping on to, I should say.
Right.
I think to make the grind worth it for me, I think it would be cool to, I like how you can outfit your ship, but I think it'd be really cool to be able to have a pirate fort of some sort. You know, in kind of like Fallout 4 style, where you could just kind of build onto this little situation that you have.
Wow, that's kind of surprising.
Or some kind of mission where you could really like, all right, like Ghost Recon Wildlands for me is a much more fun game to play with 4 players than 1, because of the tactical aspect of adding all those free-thinking players and what you can accomplish like that. Right now, having more guys on your crew basically means more swords to swipe at. And I think we haven't touched on this, but the combat is not precise. Precise is not it is not a word I would use to describe it at all. It's right up there with like Hunt Showdown, if you fellas have played that at all.
Yeah.
It's clunky, and it's there's nothing really tactical about it at all. So maybe having some larger missions or some larger quests that would really require, like, all right, the 2 of you go over here and the 2 of us will start here and let's work our way towards the middle. Any kind of, I mean, anything, because what it is right now, I think you hit it. It's a combination of fetch quests over and over and over again.
Damn. So this might be a weird question, but do you beat this game at some point, or is it just you hop on, you play, that's it?
Yeah, I don't think you'd beat it. There's also no story mode or any kind of, even when you're solo, you're basically just, I mean, you're brave because you're just out there in the water, outmanned and outgunned. But there is no, I mean, I don't think you beat it. I think you just play it until you're tired of playing it. Yeah,
there's a level cap and everything. I mean, and there's a couple characters you meet as you level up that have a little bit of, like, I guess you call it world story, sort of story, for sure. So it's not the directed focus that I think anybody would expect, or
it's
anybody thinks might be.
It's pretty light on lore too, is it not? Regardless of how far you progress in the game.
Yeah, so we had a lot of difficulty explaining that away. So I did the review, and then I started talking to some people who were playing at the same time, and that was one of the questions I had too. Was you have this world that seems like interesting things have happened, but it doesn't really cover past, future, past, like things that have occurred where you see a shipwreck, right? So obviously in the past, you're supposed to assume this ship is sort of wrecked here. But other than the quests that tell you, Long John Skiddly-Dee lost his fucking chest here, you don't really get a lot of that input. And I think that it's a little bit like LA Noire versus an open world GTA game, where it looks open and there's shit going on, but when you start investigating and walking around, there's not a lot happening. And one of the big problems I have with this game is the lack of PvP happening often, or the lack of NPC encounters. You don't have random events. So you're not like sailing and there's a bunch of random bad guys, even like in a Black Flag. There's none except for the PvP, which can be either a couple people or none as well, depending on how the server treats you.
The PvP, when it does happen between two, is awesome. It's absolutely awesome. But yeah, aside from NPCs, like every once in a while you might get a skeleton like firing a cannon from atop a fort. You can always tell when it's an NPC because their aim is impeccable. Way better than a human could do.
Yeah, way better.
Yeah, way better. But
because I remember a lot of people when I was talking about this game, they were like, "Is it procedurally generated?" Because of that lack of lore, right? Like you think there'd be a little bit of story, like Karak said, you find Long John, whatever the fuck his name is, ship underwater. Maybe you find like in a chest a notebook or something that you can read and find out what adventures they were on that led to this shipwreck. But there's none of that, huh?
Nah.
Wow. Damn shame, man.
Yeah. Odd game. That's all I have to say. Very, very odd game. It'll be really interesting in 2-3 years for us to look back, to see, even to look at Rare. I don't know if you guys saw, but that leaker on Reddit, who supposedly has been confirmed now, had a lot to say and had worked 2 years on it. And if 12% of that is true, they knew it was shallow, right? Yeah, and that no one knew what to do with it. There was a lot of, I guess, I don't know how you call it. Anybody who's worked at a big business knows the meetings that really don't go anywhere, and you're like, man, I'm just here because these people really just want to waste an hour of my day. There isn't a decision made or even anything really occurring, and it seems like that was happening with this. And maybe, who knows why, right? Because the Rare I loved isn't the same Rare. So it's like maybe their directors weren't the best at saying this is what we want to make. I also think game developers are going through a weird fucking time right now. You have a game like The Division, which a lot of people didn't like day one, that's doing well now. You have a game like Siege, also Ubisoft, which wasn't the greatest when it first came out. It's doing really well now. So, I think maybe a Microsoft, when they were in the midst of making this game, might have also lost the focus. They're like, oh, we want to do this. Well, wait, it's not doing so well. Maybe we want to do this. I don't know, but the Reddit, that poster, who, like I said, I believe was verified, that is pretty much what they pointed out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see in a year from now when we return to this if anything will change. I am curious, though, what they do in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Now we'll talk about A Way Out. So reviews for that dropped, and not in the same issue of Sea of Thieves, but more so in the way of polarizing reviews. Karak, I believe you played that as well. This is another one I'm going to have to get around to. But what were your overall thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I totally see why people maybe didn't like it, because it is it's not just a Telltale, but it is somewhat like that. But I have to say that, dude, like, if you want to play, what was that? Do you guys remember? It's not Jackie Chan. It's the other. He was a martial artist. He did a movie video game for the 360.
Jet Li. It was Jet Li.
Was it Jet Li that did a video game, or was it Chung Fat, or whatever his name is?
No, I don't think it was Chow Yun Fat. I think it was Jet Li.
So there's these video games that sort of nail the cinematic element, and yeah, this one does. I mean, there's a moment, no lie, where you're fighting, then it curves around a corner, then it zooms to the other guy who's watching you. Now now the other player's him. They run, they fight some people. Then you like run past a security office, and there's a bank of monitors, and the camera zooms into the camera or into the monitor and becomes the next person. So it's this seamless. It's something you can't do with a real camera dolly, right? You'd never be able to do that. It would just be all computer graphics, and that's what they do here. But they play with this opening. They play with this horizontal, vertical split screen all the time. So like you'll be horizontal, one thing, and then it'll fade out completely and show you what one character's doing for like 15 seconds, and then it'll fade to a vertical, and you guys play for a while of that. Then it'll fade to a side camera view, and you'll be doing something there, and it almost never snaps ever. It doesn't go like camera view. There's something in the background that it zooms into, or some reason why it transitions between the two. So it's one of the most fantastic uses of like the virtual camera I've ever seen in a game. Just phenomenal looking. But other than that, you run around.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what were the general negative takeaways for you, and compared to what you saw from others?
The shooting.
No, really.
Yeah, whenever you're talking, it's fucking amazing. Like it's one of the most hilarious buddy, like buddy cop, but criminals, but a buddy criminal TV show you could imagine.
Okay.
And the cool thing is if you replay it, there's decisions you have where you have to choose which one to go. So you could replay it with different experiences. The ending isn't necessarily a ton different, but the experiences will be. And dude, I'm telling you, that's when the game hits. But one of the things I'd said in the review is, man, when the game is like, it gives you guns, probably some of the best sounding guns I've ever heard in a game. You get these things and you start shooting, and I immediately heard the people I was playing with and watching yawn. Like physically yawn. They were like,
wow.
And I was all, and that's exactly what happens. You go from this intense buddy cop, crazy things go, buddy crime or criminal, crazy stuff going on, and then it fades to these gun battles that just aren't good or tight. Luckily, barely happen. It's very rare. Matter of fact, the end loses a beat or two because of that, and then it goes back to the cinematic points. When it's at its cinematic moments, you guys, I think most people, if you like Lethal Weapon, if you like, any of those tag team kind of movies, the one-liners in this are fucking hilarious. Like that they say to each other. They are legitimately funny. They have a moment where they're in a parachute and the dude's threatening the other dude, and he's saying he's gonna drop him unless he tells him his life story. And it's just, like Reg and I the entire time we're laughing. It was so bad I couldn't use any footage with audio because Reg was laughing from the starting of that fucking game to the very end on my footage that I'd recorded. So yeah.
Well,
I guess I'm the only one who played it, huh?
It sounds fun. Yeah, you are. I want to play it. I need to find a buddy to play it with.
Same.
Is it one of those game like? How long is it? Because you compared it to Telltale Games.
4.5.
Okay, because they also made Brothers, Tale of Two Sons, which is like a 2-hour game, I think. Yeah. Did you see them draw any experiences from that? Because I think that's the game, Karak, you and I'm like, that game's amazing, and you're like, dude, I hate it.
Yeah, I wasn't. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say. I might have, actually.
Did I put words in your mouth there?
I think that's probably true. I really didn't like it as much as you, and it does draw a bunch of similarities because there's multiple times where, like, if you and I were playing, you would be able to see a bad guy, I couldn't, right? But it's cinematic. It's never the rote shit. It's the opposite of Sea of Thieves in a weird way, where it's like, here's a thing and a basic button to press. There's never that moment in the game. For example, there's a part where you're sneaking by. And it's like not disrupt, but get a person to pay attention to you while your friend does something. But you don't just talk to them. There's one point where you reach back and you knock lightly on the glass of a hospital ward so that a guy looks from the corner. Like there's these physical movements and representations. It's not the typical stuff you would expect. That happens throughout the game.
So it's not on rails then, because that was my biggest concern. Is that there is some flexibility in how you can approach some of these situations though?
There's situations where you can choose what to say, and it'll depend on who's talking to who. Sometimes you won't get the info, and you'll have to have the other person go talk to him because you're an asshole or something. That can change. You have the major plot point or major decision points that can change, but it is not a Metal Gear Phantom Pain stealth game. It is more about you need to go here and get this. It's just that you're never alone because the other person is always doing something. So you're never that moment where you're like, I'll go do this. Most of the time, it's like, for me to do this, you have to do this and time it just right so that we're working together at the same time. And it's a unique title. It's not going to be for everybody, but I think they know that because it's also free for the second person. Only one person needs the game.
I feel like that really came through because for me, like the reviews were all over the place. This just launched, so like regular Joes can pick this up this morning. It just launched like last night or this morning, right? The reviews are all over the place, from like low 3s and 4s all the way up to 8.5s, 9s. It just depends on. I think everybody walks away with a different impression as to what this was or how it impacted them.
Yep, for sure.
That must be interesting for the developers because for across the board, mostly people were like all about Brothers Tale of Two Sons. They were like, this is impactful, this is strong. They combine gameplay and narrative. But then this one, they're probably like, these people really like it, but these don't. But last time they really liked it. So I wonder how they're feeling too when they look
frustrated, I imagine. Yeah, I bet they're looking at it like, what the hell do we do with this? Like, it's got to be hard to derive anything from that.
Yeah, because like Metacritic is only at 78, which I would say is probably lower than they had hoped for. But they did know they were making a Telltale game. I mean, technically, right? Like they had to have known that that's sort of what they were making. But you do have an 83 and an 85 and a 90. So it has high ones and then some.
Do you think that it adds to more people giving it a chance? Because it's co-op, which we've actually seen a lot of this week between Sea of Thieves, this game, and then Far Cry 5 is going to have co-op. But do you think it adds to that, along with, I believe it's if you buy a copy of this game, you get a free one for a friend? Do you think these types of things, which I'm surprised, this is an EA published title, by the way, folks, if you didn't know that. A lot of our listeners probably just fucking fell out of their chairs in astonishment.
Yeah, you'd have to.
You know, that do you think that adds to it a little bit, where maybe people are going to look at those reviews and go, oh, well, I'll get a free copy, play it with a friend. Yeah. Like, if I'm suffering, someone's going down with me. So I
think they nailed it. Yeah, I think they nailed it. And that price, look at Council, which I reviewed. That one was 2 or 3 hours and $29.99. This one's like a little bit less, and a person who wants to play, you just send them an invite and it downloads, and they don't need to buy the game at all, which is crazy. And because we played the entire game, and he didn't buy it, and so to me, it was highly intelligent for them to do that.
It's crazy to me because it seems like, I mean, granted, EA is not, I would never look at them as a generous publisher by any means, but the fact that this thing even got made, it seems like a tech demo, like some guy in a room was like, what if, like 2 players, like what if we take the 2-player split screen and just take it all the way home? And then on the backside of that, it's also not a cash grab. It seems unlikely that this would ever be made or released. The fact that it has, I think, is kind of a marvel in and of itself.
Very true. Very true. I never even thought of that. Because, they're not known for that type of stuff. I mean, you look at Battlefront 2, pay-to-win structure, and then you look at this game. It's like, this is from the same company?
Yeah, really weird. Really weird.
I'm looking forward to trying that one out, though, especially because it's a little bit of a shorter title. That's one you can bang out in an afternoon, so that's going to be nice. Yeah. Now we'll move over to the hype beast himself, Todd Howard. He recently did an interview.
Hype beast? Is that what you call it?
Hype beast, yeah.
Awesome.
Because here's the thing. Anytime this man says something, internet explodes. Like, he could say, I woke up today, I drank my morning coffee and took a shit. And people are like, what? You did? Like, that kind of thing. And so, this time he did an interview for the AIAS. Ted Price, the CEO of Insomniac, runs this series. And it's actually... I highly suggest people add this to their podcast series that they listen to, because it's a very intimate discussion with game devs, and a lot of throughout this interview, Todd will talk about things that maybe they didn't get right, things he finds a little embarrassing about what has happened in games he's created. Like he says, we don't do horses right at all, but it's not the center of our game, so it's not a big deal. So stuff like that, and there are plenty of other developers that they have on, so it's a really good listen. But anyway, naturally, Bethesda fans, they dive into this because they see Todd Howard's name on it, and we know that Todd likes to tease a little bit throughout, so he talks about a new animation system that they're working on. It's not for their game coming out next, it's for the game after that. So they're working on some new tech, which I'd love to hear both of your guys' thoughts on. On top of that, they're not leaving behind Elder Scrolls or Fallout. They have plans for those universes. The current state of Bethesda Game Studios is about 300 plus employees, and we're talking about a studio who, when they released Fallout 4, they just had over 100-man team. So they have tripled their manpower. And with all that information comes a lot of speculation. And I've talked about it a lot this week. So I'd love for you guys to just dive right in and let me know what you think.
Anything, Brian?
Karak, I'm going to have to defer to you on that one, man. This was, I tried to digest a lot of this stuff. This is the first time I've even heard of this fella. Like, I follow Bethesda, especially PC-wise. I follow it from a distance, I guess. They've had a lot of strong releases at the tail end of 2017 and 2018, and I'm a huge Pete Hines fan. But this dude is all news to me. So, yeah, take it away.
I'm a huge Pete Hines fan. That's awesome.
I love him.
Yeah, no,
he's great.
A lot of people do. I like, a lot of that stuff is in the future, what they'll do and that kind of thing. Animation would definitely be cool if they fix that. I personally have really liked Fallout 4 VR. I think they misstepped in a couple places because I had hacked the fucker to get it to really work. But once it did, it was phenomenal. I would love to see their games coming out where, like, it comes out day and date VR as well, because now you've got VR headsets selling for, I think it's $200 now for the WMR ones. So They've definitely dropped in price to where they're more of a Twitch purchase. I would like to see them do. I just sort of am a Fallout fan right now, more than any of the others. So that's really all I care about. I don't know why. I just really want to see whatever they do with Fallout next. I just don't know where they're going, because didn't we think Stardew or whatever the fuck it was last E3?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, that's been an interesting journey in its own right. So, Brian, since you said you don't keep up with Bethesda, do you know what Starfield is?
I don't. No,
Okay.
I saw a little bit of that content on your channel this morning when I was checking it out, but no, lost on me.
Basically, what it is there was a patent or something submitted by Bethesda. It got approved. It's been approved. It's a legit one, and it's called Starfield. And a lot of people know that Bethesda, you got your fantasy RPG, you got your post-apocalyptic RPG. When this patent started surfacing, though, it was around the time where it was easy to deduce who was working on it, and that would be Bethesda Game Studios. So at the end of the day, people are expecting their next game to be this sci-fi role-playing game, and they're not sure if it's going to be like an open world, open universe, procedurally generated. I mean, that's all speculation. The only thing we know, and it might not even pertain to this game, is that there was a AAA freemium job listing for Bethesda Game Studios. So that was definitely, like, a lot of people were raising an eyebrow at that. So people might think it's a multiplayer game, like a Destiny. So yeah, right now, that's where it stands with Starfield. And that's where a lot of the speculation has been driven. So knowing that they're trying, let's say Starfield is this hypothetical open world multiplayer game, the idea of that running on the Creation Engine, because they said they're not changing their tech with this coming game, but the next one, I'm curious to see how that's all going to work out.
So from somebody who's, if I'm looking at this from a distance, like I've played a lot of the Fallout series, not so big on Oblivion, Morrowind. I didn't really get into a lot of that. When we're talking specifically about the animation style, like why is this pertinent? Why is this gigantic information that people should be?
Yeah, I think part of
excited about.
It's Bethesda, right? Like, so
right.
with them, they just have fans that we like to get excited. I'll just say it as simple as that. It just we like to get excited. But with that situation there, a lot of people have been calling for Bethesda for years. Make a new engine. Make a new engine. New tech, please. Because people call them Bug Bethesda because they have notoriously buggy titles.
Yeah, there's got, like, I've played enough to pick up on that. Do they revamp the engine substantially in between releases? Like,
yeah, I mean, like with Skyrim, it was on the Creation Engine, and they updated it for Fallout 4, but it's still the Creation Engine at heart, right? So it's like people want them to make the jump, make a whole new engine, and hearing the talk of a whole brand new animation system is interesting, because what game could they need to make a whole new animation system for? And also on top of that, it's just them working on new tech, which they never say they're doing. A big part of that's because of their modding community. A lot of people know that what supports their games is the modders, and their engine is very dependent on that. And to change that drastically changes the whole community. Do you lose a lot of your modders, aka your post-launch support that keeps their games relevant for 4 or 5 years, right? Like Skyrim came out in 2011, and we're still talking about it. Of course it got re-released, but mods kept that game alive
85 times.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, is there anything you can't play Skyrim on right now? It seems like
No.
literally everything.
Your phone. One day.
Yeah. I guess did both of you guys play Dead Island? This is going to be a weird tangent, but it's still connected. Has everybody played Dead Island?
Yeah, I played all of them. Yeah, I played all of them.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Have you played Dying Light?
Oh,
yes.
I love that.
Okay.
Game.
Think about it this way. I think for animation, the difference between Dead Island and Dying Light animation-wise is night and day. My assumption is that Bethesda is known, and they are known for having shit animation. It's bad enough that, like, people try to figure out how to mod that, which usually indicates you have an issue. So maybe the reason why people are so excited is because, like, it does, when you see one of their games, I don't know of any other engine or any other game titles where you don't immediately know Bethesda made it. Like,
that's fair. You can tell at a
see
glance.
their stuff and you're like, boom, Bethesda, they definitely made this. So what I think is one of those is animation. The next,
I know it's under the Bethesda family, but I just thought
that's true.
Arcane's
true.
one I see, and I know.
I was going to say their texturing has a cottage cheese factor to it, a very blurry factor. I would like to see them improve that as well. I would love to see Bethesda go to the mods, or not the mod makers, because some of those guys, if you see the mods for like the textures, you see it runs better. A mod gets it to run better and look better, and you're like, how the fuck did Bethesda not figure this out? How did the mod figure this out? So my hope is that a lot of those things they're putting into this next engine.
One thing that's infamous with BGS games is with every one they've released, there's always one of the first big mods is called the unofficial patch. Someone goes in, patches so many quest bugs, hundreds of fixes, and the game performs fine at that point. But it's with every single one. It's crazy.
What do you like? All right, like what do you suppose it is about Bethesda's community that makes that okay? Because if any other game house relied on a modding community to fix what they had done in their game, people would go apeshit over that. And Bethesda's just like par for the course. Like, people just take it for what it is at face value. It seems to me like Bethesda doesn't have to do a lot of work on the back end because the community is so involved in pushing that game forward any way that they can.
I was just about to say, like, I was thinking, it's funny that you asked that, because I was thinking the other day, like, what keeps it going, right? Most people would just say, fuck it, I'm selling the game, right? Or I'm not going to work on this. I think it's the opportunity, if you are a game or a aspiring game dev, rather, you have the chance to work on something and fix it, right? Like, you have an objective, not just create something, like you can fix something. I think that's a big part of it, but I also think no matter what kind of game they make, right, on this engine, if it's moddable, there is always the chance it improves. If you have the creation engine in someone's hands, like, it's always going to get better because you have the option to download all these mods and improve your game. And I think maybe that's part of the reason they expanded their team, right? They have this limited team of 100 people. There's only so many ideas that can circle around that, but when you got 300 people, all of a sudden these ideas are rip-roaring, and you have a far bigger reach out, especially with, while it's highly scrutinized and rightfully so, the Creation Club. They're working close with the modders there, where maybe some ideas can creep in to the development of a full game, not just a mini DLC, they'll call it.
That was the question I had too, is how often do they as a studio tap the modders and say, hey, we like what you did here, come work for us on this specific thing or this specific function? Does that happen a lot?
From what I know, with Creation Club, like, I've heard when a modder gets tapped on the shoulder, like, some of them have said, like, I can pay rent easily now with what they give me, and they're contracted in, so it's like hiring a freelance worker to come in and work on something, and then you pay them for their services. Or I don't know if it's like how exactly it goes, because I've actually never had a modder share that info with me. I don't know, so I don't know if they're like, hey, you're coming in, we're going to pay you for 5 mods, wherever they are, or if it's, hey, you're going to make this quest and we will pay you $1,000 or whatever the hell they pay them. You know, I don't know how it goes in that regard. I just know it's contractual, and so I don't know if after that, if they like what they see, they go, okay, work on this with us now, and we want to have you do this. Because that would be really interesting, because Bethesda has a lot of creative minds there. I know after Fallout New Vegas, apparently a lot of Obsidian employees did end up there, and some of them have left now. But and it would just be interesting to have that combination of the Bethesda, some Obsidian formers, and then, and I'm not talking about the big guns, by the way, for those listening out there, like a Chris Avalone or Sawyer or whatever. I'm just talking like general employees, like programmers or whatever. And then the fans tapping in on it. I think that would make a trifecta of what Bethesda needs to really dial in and make what their fans want. But on the other hand, though, even in this interview, like, Todd makes it loud and clear kind of what the fans are looking for. Like, he knows we're looking for role-playing games from them, because one of the questions they were asked was, like, would you make any type of game under any different genre? And he's just like, no. Like, I always want to make role-playing games. So I think he knows what not only his team wants, but what we want from them.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it does. It adds so much to have the modding be open and accessible to the community too, because, you know, if there is a possibility to patch a game, the last game I can think of that just really drove people mad, and I think prompted the entire Steam refund system, was the last Arkham game. What was that?
Arkham Knight. I like that game.
Iron Galaxy's magnum opus.
Sorry,
that's the developer. Yeah.
I have yet to play it because the perception was so bad, and I played all the Arkham games, like, thoroughly. I slept on that one because at the time I think it was coming out against some pretty stiff competition, and it just got slaughtered. Anytime anybody would talk about
The
it,
Witcher.
yeah, but that was exactly, great point. But it's that's one of those things where it's like, they hand you this pile of shit on a plate, and you get what you get. Like nobody gets to, you don't get to go in there and like, you don't get to go home and break it down and be like, what can I add? How can I help fix? Like, it's just not there. It's a closed ecosystem, and so you get what you get, and then you just send it right back to the waiter.
Yeah, I also think I don't think there is that one explanation of this is why people mod Bethesda games, right? Like I just feel a lot of developers see it as an opportunity because any really good mods, right? Like the ones that get thousands of downloads, they're usually like an aspiring developer. And when you get that really good mod, I mean, think of that on your portfolio, right? Like you're applying to a job and you can say like, look at this, look what I made. And they'll go, holy shit, he made that by himself? Like that's crazy. So, I think that's a big part of it personally. But also now that mods are more accessible, like they're available on consoles, we have Bethesda.net, so it's just a quick, that's it. Because I think, what was the number he said? I think they said originally 9% of players interacted with mods when it was just the PC. And like that's definitely spiked an incredible amount because it's available to everyone. So I think
9%?
Yes. Yeah, it was like a astronomically low number because people, and I was one of them for a while. Like even when I was like a growing Bethesda channel, I was scared to mod my games because I didn't want to fuck up my computer because it's just about downloading files, going to your data folder. You don't want to ruin your save file. I mean, for those who used to like when I stream like the Fallout rage through and stuff, like it would be error after error with my games, and I'd have to like fix it for an hour before I'd get rolling. Those are the things that people would face, and I think that's why you'll see attention around mods, right? Like people will watch, but the people who play them and download them and interact with them is actually really small. So
that's crazy to me. That's such a lower percentage than I would have thought, because one of the big boons of PC gaming in general is your ability to get under the hood and mod in a way that console generally doesn't let you do. So 9% is shocking.
This way, we'll look at Fallout 4, which I think sold about 25 million copies, right? And 10%, we'll round it up. That's pretty sizable number. I can't do the math in my head and move the decimal points over right now on what that would exactly be. But my point being is that it's still like a large base. And that's why I think they did the thing they did with Creation Club. People were like, why would they do this? I'm like, if 5% of people who own Fallout 4 buy one thing from the Creation Club, Bethesda's profiting an insane amount, right?
Sure.
I'm actually
also, what'd you say?
I'm talking to myself. Sorry. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to say also, when you look at the fact that I think their games are probably one of the easiest sets to mod, because like it comes with everything. You don't need to really separate and go, fix, find a bunch of shit and download a bunch of shit. Usually when it comes to modding a Bethesda game, it's like ESM and files. Pretty much what the file extension is. You jump in. Their INI files are open to the public. They're fucking massive. And there's thousands of entries, and you can go in and go, shadow resolution, want to change this. And I think that for a lot of people is a big deal too, where they feel like I can jump in. Because I used to love to do Unreal back in the day, modding for the Unreal games. And they were easy, but nowhere near as easy as these. Like you can inject textures pretty simply once you understand, what steps you need to take. I think that's probably one of the biggest things for their fans.
Yeah, is there like, I can't think, is like, for example, Kingdom Come Deliverance has mods. Those are pretty easy to install, but is there that modding, not even community, but that mod support, kind of like what Bethesda has, right? Like, is there anything on that level, not just from the community itself, but also the developer providing the tools? Like, I'd say Unreal, right? But it's like...
Yeah, but am I wrong, Matty? Didn't File Nexus start because, or not start, but become prominent because of Skyrim, Oblivion, and
I couldn't say that conclusively, but
for some reason I thought the Nexus mods. For some reason I thought that's sort of how they became, big.
I mean, yeah, when you go on their site, it's literally all Bethesda games, and they're expanding now. Like they have, I think, a Witcher category. Witcher has some mods. A lot. Any game can be modded. Like we've seen the Dragon Ball Fighters mods that put like SpongeBob characters in and fight each other. Right. It's fucking hilarious. But it's stuff like that. You see it like here and there, and it's a cool. Oh wow! But like very few people actually dive in under the hood and get involved like I think Bethesda's community does. So I'd like to hear, I'd love to hear the listeners and what they have to say and why they mod their games, and see if we can get like a generalized answer for most of the audience on why exactly that is.
Sure.
Because there's got to be like that one primary reason, because I can only think of a couple of good ones.
Patches, like you said, I have a feeling a lot of people are just going to be like unofficial patch. Once you realize you can mod it using that, and then suddenly you jump in, you're like, oh, I can fix this.
I just thought, because we were talking earlier about Sea of Thieves being a platform, you build on it, right?
Yeah.
The same logic apply for a Bethesda Game Studios game. It's like, oh, this is fun. And then, oh, I can get more quests down the line from the community themselves, and like my complaints are being heard by someone who's just like me, and then they can make that. So that's the other thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then there's people like me who just, I used to piss people off because I'd cross universes. I just got a kick out of it. Like, I'd make a Spider-Man playthrough. I'd run around as Iron Man in Skyrim. I'd use lightsabers.
Nothing wrong with that, baby.
That upsets people? Yeah. Is that a trigger for some people out there?
Because some people are like all about the lore, like lore-friendly mods. And I get that. I absolutely get that. Or immersion mods. And like, people will get pissed. They're like, why the fuck do you got Spider-Man? I'm like, dude, like, what other game can I run around in a post-apocalyptic universe with an AK and shoot balls at Spider-Man?
Or lightsabers and shit. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that's why I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Anyway, let's move on to Prey, another little Bethesda title. Lovely little game. Karak, you and I have talked about that so much. Brian, have you played Prey?
Played it, loved it. I think I actually went... I think I did 2 playthroughs on that. Yeah, I was a huge fan of Prey. Yeah.
Nice. So you and Karak are going to really have a field day here. I saw that on the Arcane Twitter account, there was a calendar that one of the employees was holding, and they were like, "Good morning, Morgan," and right on the day of their E3 conference was circled. In the back of the room on a little dry erase board was written June 10th, 2018. So it's obvious they're revealing something for Prey on the Bethesda E3 conference day. Yeah, well, the only hint we got right now is that they posted a GIF and it was of the moon, and they're like, "What do we really know what's out there?" So,
is it a proper ending? Because that's what I would like to.
I love it. Yes, yes. Thank God someone said it. All right. Never mind. We're going to get along great. I thought you and Karak would be like, oh, it's fine. I'm just like,
no, the ending was a huge letdown, man. I mean, it left a lot of stuff open for the future, but shit. And especially when I was like, okay, well, clearly I've got the bad ending. We're going to go back and do this different. So I went through the second playthrough, and then really the second ending was like, all right, I don't know. And then at that point, I just cheated. I just went to YouTube, and I watched all the endings in one go, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, where's it? Like, I don't. No,
I think that also. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that also lends itself to the discussion that you almost never want one of those endings where you hear about it prior to the game being released, and people are like, you change minute things in the ending, which is one of the things they talked about. I fucking hate that. Like, after a while, it's, I get the idea of impacting your ending, but at some point you do get those ones where you're like, what's really the difference between this ending and that one? And I think Prey did have issues.
What bugs me so much, I don't want to get off track here. We'll talk about the expansion, but just, I just, because they had it so well set up to be one of the best choice consequence endings in modern gaming in a while.
Absolutely.
And they just didn't put any consequence. They're just like, surprise, it doesn't matter what you chose. And I'm like, oh, why?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that really just burned my ass about it so bad was that it was just such a... I mean, when it came out, it was just so refreshing, man. Like, you had this new, a completely new IP, and it was done so well, and the level of interaction you had with the world, and the choices you could take, and how you could problem solve. I mean, everything. There was just so much meat on the bones. For it to end like that was just like, what did you guys did you give up? Did you run out of money? Like, what the fuck happened between making this amazing experience and then wrapping it up like that? For me, it fell so flat, man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Karak, you played it like, what, 5 times?
Wow.
4.5, yeah.
4.5.
Till I finally put it down, because I did realize, like, by that point, I think it was just, mental masturbation. I was just enjoying the world, like, I like Prey's world, and absolutely. So by that point, I was more like just, oh, this is pretty fucking cool, and not really going further in the game. Yeah. To me, the expansion, I'm not a big fan of what I don't want to say I'm not a big fan. I don't know what they're going to do for their DLC because I don't necessarily feel like that world requires anything extra, other than, like you said, an ending. If you have an issue with that ending, I personally feel that what they thought they were doing was an ending like the movie The Mist. And if you haven't seen that, it's a Stephen King movie. There's a very poignant ending, but it certainly isn't a hug. Like, there's nothing really like, this is awesome. We're going to have a great time. It was like, no matter what you do, shit still happens. And I don't know if maybe they just failed on the making that make sense. That's a hard ending to pull off in any case.
Yeah,
like, and that one, it didn't pull it off. Obvious. I think most people who love it still have an issue with the ending. So, but for me, I don't know where the DLC goes because of that. Like, what do you? So it's like a moon and like, are we really alone or something? Isn't that? It's like,
yeah, like, do we know what's out there? Something like that. Like, it's hinting that it's gonna bring you to the moon or something along those lines. And I figured, I played it once, or 1.5 times, and then you've played it twice, Brian. Karak, you played it 4.5 times. So I'd be more keen to hear what you guys have to say, because for me, it's like all I can come up with is what they've given me, right? Like, I'm just like, all right,
yeah, exactly.
I don't. Well, if anything, I don't know if they're gonna continue afterwards. It didn't seem like when the game ended there was room.
It didn't leave a lot, right? I mean, there weren't a lot of.
Well, there was. I don't want to spoil it. There was room, I think, for a sequel, but for what I'm imagining is a kind of going to be like a Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, where it's bigger than a DLC or an expansion. I'm sorry, but smaller than a full game. Like, I don't know if
that's what it would have to be. I feel like, because I don't feel like with the space station, I don't think they left a lot of that unexplored. By the time you're done with the game, I feel like you've literally picked apart every nook and cranny of that place.
Absolutely.
And as far as like NPCs or other characters, like where do their storylines branch off? I don't think there's enough there.
Do you think? Well, you just mentioned, so they did explore that. Do you think maybe it's like there's a secret installation on the moon where the same shit's going on, and
it could be
we're gonna
the only idea,
have a side character kind of thing?
The only idea I have, no, I'm just saying, is like, I don't want to spoil the ending for those who want to play, but there is one idea I personally have. Shall I insert spoiler warning?
We're pretty close to that game being around, so you need to time it. Say for the next minute.
I'll write down a little timestamp here. Spoiler at 57:20. So if you have not played Prey, plan on playing it, plan on watching someone play it, and you don't want the ending ruined for you, I will have a timestamp in the description of where the spoiler starts. We can talk about spoilers for a little bit and then where it ends. So for me, my DLC idea is at the end of the game, you see like Earth. And it's all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're going to show that in the DLC or the expansion or the new, we'll call it Dishonored style expansion. That's what I was thinking. Like, are they going to take us to Earth? And because, what's happening is, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the point of the story was seeing how a Typhon acted in this environment, and based off their decisions, they determined whether to befriend them, and based off what's happening on Earth, or kill them off, and how they'd handle Earth. So do you see the aftermath of that, or do you go to the moon because they decided what they want to do? And it'd be really interesting if choices carried over. That'd be really cool. But that's my idea, and I'm fuzzy because I haven't played this game in 10 months now. So
it's been a while. I don't know. It's I don't know what they've got up their sleeve. I know that regardless of what it is, I'm excited about it. I'll play it regardless of what it is. But I think it would be tough to pull off the. I think this, like, the Site B would be the obvious choice, but almost like the too easy, too on the nose choice. Right. Going back to Earth would definitely be more interesting, seeing how because all we saw was how the choices you made. We saw it like through a distance on a video monitor through a window. We didn't see ground level what was really going on. So maybe there is room for that. That'd be really cool.
That's the only thought I had. Karak, what would you think would be a good type of story to tell in that universe?
They'll be better than me, because I still don't think there's an answer. I'm really excited to see what they say, because I just do not see what we saw. There's a couple endings. There's like the leave everything, the just give up, the depending on how many endings you guys saw. There's, I think, 4 or 5, if I remember, main endings. There's like we sort of left everything. All the knowledge is still contained here, and I don't really know which ending is canon, so it's even more confusing. They have to decide, a little bit like Mass Effect 3, which of those endings is your canon if you want to make a Mass Effect 4 and pretend Andromeda doesn't work or doesn't exist, which I think we all should do. So how do you do that with Prey as well? Like, which ending do you choose? And then do you say that's the ending that we're choosing as our storyline for the second? Or, and I think Brian's right, the easy way, but also the way that makes sense, do you do a side character thing and just be like, Site B, Blue Shift, Half-Life Blue Shift kind of thing, where you just, these events are happening. The thing is I don't know if you guys ever experienced it, but I didn't when I was playing Prey. I didn't really experience them giving a lot of lore about anywhere else. What I mean by that is, a lot of times they'll be
station and
prior events. And you know what I mean? So there isn't like a at least I don't remember. In Doom even, they do a good job with like audio logs of like mentioning other places, sort of like they know. They're all, we may make a sequel, we may make DLC. There wasn't a lot that I remember, at least, where they were like, oh, but over here there's a mysterious project.
No, you're right. I mean, you nailed it on the head. That's one reason why I guess this came as a surprise to me, because I honestly didn't expect any kind of DLC or expansion, because it was so self-contained, and it was, whether you liked it or not, wrapped up with a bow on the end. I mean, they didn't leave a lot of question marks, I didn't feel, by the end of the game.
Yeah. Because, that's one thing I do like about Bethesda a lot. Like, for example, Dishonored 2, we all know it underperformed compared to the first one. Most times, that's all she wrote. You're not going to see another entry for a while until they come up with new ideas, reboot it, get on a new trend, or create a new one themselves. But then we see Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which in many ways I thought was one of the best Dishonored games in the series. So
you sold me on it too, by the way. So if anybody gets a chance, check out his video.
Thank you. So, no, it's fine. So, you look at that and go, wow, that's pretty commendable. And so maybe we're seeing the same thing with Prey, because after Prey, Rafael Colantonio, he was the director of the project, he leaves. And you're thinking,
true.
We knew Prey had really slow sales out the gate. It started to pick up a little bit, but it didn't perform that well. And once again, it's like one of those, well, all right, are we going to see more Prey, or is that all she wrote? And here we are. We're definitely seeing something. And I'm imagining with this big time gap, it's probably going to be something like Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which I'd like to, in comparison, see the sales numbers for that. Does that justify, because they have to have a reason for doing it that way. Bethesda doesn't really do, except for their Bethesda Game Studios games, they don't do expansions anymore. They do like separate mini releases, and maybe they sell better than standard DLC. It's just a thought.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it is funny though, because like you did, by the way, sell me on that, because you know how I felt about Dishonored 2, especially technically. Remember, because we were tweeting each other, Maddie, and you were like, everything was running fine for you, I think, and I was the one with all these technical issues, and I was just like, this is fucking a disaster. And then Death of the Outsider, was that a review? Or that was a full review.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that was one game that they gave me a day in advance. I'm like, I'm not beating this, and it's like 6 hours long, and I go, oh wow, I actually can beat this before their short ass embargo time.
Yeah, they are a little touchy with that. But it was like, that kind of thing does show that if they do a Prey 6 hour, then maybe there is some stuff you do. I just think it's like the more developed they try to make a DLC for Prey, the harder it will be, because there isn't a lot there. But I certainly could see something that was 4 to 6 hours, something short, where you don't feel like, how did nobody know about this? The more detailed you make it, the more you have to go, for sure. And you have to make sure everybody understands where you are, where the character and where the fiction is. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what it is. I just don't know where they're going to go.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, I'm excited. That adds a little bit of the E3 mystery. I've noticed these past 2 years, they announced so much shit before E3, and you don't know what's going to get a mini trailer at their conference, what we're actually going to see get revealed, what surprises they're going to have. Because E3 2017 for Bethesda was just so out there on the table, and you're like, there's got to be a surprise. Like we were talking about Sea of Thieves. Oh, there's got to be content, man. Like there's no way they'd ship this, and then they do, and you're like, well, fuck. Same thing with E3 with Bethesda last year. It's like, there's got to be a big home run here, and it ends in 38 minutes. You're like, fuck, that sucked.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, fingers crossed. Now we'll switch over to the Nintendo Switch. I God, I had a good chance for a pun there. Fuck.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that was a great segue.
Damn it. Nintendo Switch is the best-selling console platform in history in the first 12-month period in the U.S. So, once again, my foot's in my mouth. I said this console really wasn't going to perform that well, and it's breaking records. Brian, do you have a Switch?
I do not, but there's only one reason why I do not have a Switch, and that is because the PC community did a very exceptional job of porting Breath of the Wild to the PC.
Really?
Albeit it's a very gray area, but it is a, I went out and purchased a Wii U copy of the game just so I could say, hey, up yours, I bought it. I didn't just pirate this game. But it's a port of the Wii U, and it is spectacular. It runs at 60 frames a second. It runs at 4K. It is, and there is when it first launched, it was like 95% there. Now it's like 99.9% there. It's exceptional. I played the game start to finish, and on the PC with a wireless gamepad in my hand, and had an absolute blast. And that's probably the only thing that stopped me from buying a Switch. My girl does not PC game. If I had a $300 Mario Kart machine hooked to the TV, she'd be down for that any day of the week. But yeah, I would buy a Switch if I had more time to just dedicate to gaming. I would buy one, no sweat, because just for the Nintendo IPs, not any of the crossover titles, probably not any of the ports, but just for the Nintendo stuff alone, I would definitely buy.
Karak, what about you? You surprised by this news?
I'm not surprised by anything they do now. Now, maybe we're in a constant level of surprise. Because I still remember us. I mean, yeah, we did not. I don't think either one of us were under. I mean, if you look back at the Switch and how it was announced, I just don't see how anybody could have, other than saying it's Nintendo, could have said this sounds like a great idea. There were so many weird. It was uncomfortable at times to hold. The battery power is hilarious on that thing. It's like a PS4 controller. It's like fucking you plug it in, unplug it, and it's already like low battery. Oh, what the shit? It's got terrible memory size. It's got all these issues, and yet my favorite version of Skyrim, easily, Country Mile is the Switch version.
Same.
You got to be kidding. Okay, you have to expound
without a
why
shadow, because
I'm right there with them, man.
It's buttery smooth. It's 30, but it's buttery smooth. It runs insanely well, and it works controller wise perfectly on the Switch. And I remember getting it and starting to play it, and like 5 minutes in, I was like, "Whoa, wow! Like this is running really well. Feels really good." And the more I played it, the more I was like, "I'm gonna forgo mods for the ability to play this while laying down, or to take it with me if I wanted to a family member's house." Yeah. And it's fucking phenomenal. I mean, it's almost a port where it's one of those magic ports. Well, it's like Breath of the Wild for the PC, where you're playing it, and you're like, holy shit. Yeah. That is pretty much how I felt the entire time I played Skyrim on the Switch.
My wow moment was I was in like a review period for it, and I was going to hockey, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My friend's driving me, and I'm sitting there playing fucking Skyrim, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's such a weird feeling. Yeah. So, yeah,
sorry, go on. I cut you off.
I was just going to say also Mario versus Rabbids it makes XCOM, which I loved, War of the Chosen, one of my favorite games, but it makes that look boring in comparison. Like it is so good, and I'm not a big fan of crossover anything. Mario and Rabbids, I was like, what the hell? And it is almost a system seller. It's just really.
Not having heard you said that, I would have slept on that title completely. I wouldn't have even given it a second thought.
Oh my God, it's good.
So
it's
good.
So Brian, have you done the XCOM games?
No, I was never. For whatever reason, XCOM is just one of those IPs I just didn't get into. Believe it or not, I think I own several. I've just literally never installed them.
It's funny because Maddie and I, every time Nintendo pops up in the past, it was the boring part of the podcast, the part where we were like, and now every time we mention it, I'm like, and guess what? It's really weird. Yeah. But Rabbids, it takes XCOM, your turn-based kind of game. Right. And most XCOM games are certainly, I think most would agree that they're more of a defensive proposition because you want to keep your guys alive, do damage from far away, unless you have a up-close person. It's move and attack or Overwatch. That's pretty much what you have. What happens with Mario that is fucking phenomenal is they actually took the fiction Mario and movement, which is what he's known for, the double jumps, and they fucking put it in to actually make sense in the game, which is rare in most overlaps.
Wow.
Most overlaps, it's like they
You're
just
porting
don't
a skin. Yeah, you're not porting in game mechanics.
The first time you fucking run, leap off Princess Peach's feet, do a double jump in the air, go through a pipe, and fucking shoot somebody, you're just like, oh yeah, that's pretty ace. And it just continues from there.
It's so much. It's one of the few games that from start to finish, it doesn't get old. Like usually you get like have you ever gotten to the point at the end of the game where you're like, I'm ready for this to end? Like I'm just feeling it start to wear on me. Like with Mario & Rabbids, it's like, nope, just keep going. It's like, please, I could take another couple hours of this. So it's spectacular though. Can't talk highly enough of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. And it's
there's still no guarantees. Game. Still no guarantees that I will not buy one. It's just that PC gaming has a tendency, for me at least, to be a very expensive hobby, and so does all the surrounding film equipment to host all this stuff. I can almost always find a place to put a few $100s if I'm looking to spend some money.
It's not too hard, is it?
I might have to prioritize Switch this year. I might have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, are there any Switch games that you're eyeing this year?
I mean, for me, it's all the Nintendo IP stuff. It's I really want to play. I think Mario Galaxy looks phenomenal. I damn near bought it just for Mario Galaxy. And Mario Kart's always a seller, even though I guess it's a port, just like a higher gloss port of the Wii U version. I would still buy just for that. But so, it's always a tough sell for a PC guy when you're talking about ports, because it's like, do I play Doom on the Switch with performance issues, or do I play Doom in glorious, unfettered 4K 60 FPS? It's just a preference at that point.
Absolutely, it's more options. Because I had that. Because I, for example, I'll play Skyrim on the Switch, and I'm like, why will I play that where I play on the PC a ton, modded it up, but all of a sudden I love the Switch version. Meanwhile, with Doom, you won't catch me touching the Switch version because I love the PC version, right? I think it's a matter of performance / port, but also it's just preference, like you said. You just got the options, and for me, the idea of laying on the bed behind me and playing Skyrim, just awesome.
And Skyrim never requires split second timing, right? It requires fast timing depending on some battles.
That's a good point.
It doesn't ever require that fucking Doom moment where you're like, the entire time you're just consistently parkouring across everybody's heads. That doesn't happen. So Skyrim, you can
mode, like that is. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Doom's arcade mode, man, is one of the few times in gaming ever where like I'll finish a level and I'm sitting there at the desk like, oh shit! Like it's just so visceral, man. It's a blast.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think Skyrim fits. I would love to see a Fallout. I know we've argued on the podcast in the past about technically if that would be possible, because it may not be, but Fallout, if you said here's Fallout 4 on the Switch, I am pretty sure, and I played the shit out of the VR version. Unbelievable amounts, and I'm pretty sure that Switch version would probably become my favorite. I think those games work so well if done technically proficiently on the Switch, and I think that's just I would love to see that kind of stuff. Like, the Switch is weird that those are the games, but they're the ones that are good.
The thing though is like I love the idea of that, but there's something with Skyrim where it's something about the world that they have there. I mean, I was watching old Rare guides I had made for Skyrim when it first came out, because sometimes I like to see like how bad were my old videos compared to now where I have like a decent microphone and everything, and I was looking at it, and as I was watching it I was like, holy crap, there is so much to this world. Like these are just rare weapons and I'm making guides on them. Then there's the side quest, the main story, but like I remember one of them I was watching where I found like all these different pieces of a Dwemer gear, and I put it on this random pedestal in the middle of nowhere, and it raises up a tower, and it's a hidden dungeon, and you go inside it and you can get like 3 different pieces of gear. You pick one at the end and you can't get the others. So stuff like that I was like, not to get off topic, but like that's what Fallout 4 completely lacked, and I think it damaged it heavily, whereas Skyrim has that. So that's why it's so appealing for me personally to lay down and play that. With Fallout 4, it's like, yeah, that'd be good, but we were just talking about quick twitch reflexes. I don't know if Fallout 4 sometimes demands you to act a little bit fast, at least early on, because that's when you're really weak and you can get killed by almost anything in the universe before you enter that god tier level. But I just, there's just certain things, like I love the world, right, with Fallout. I love being in that post-apocalyptic Boston and exploring everything, but there's just like, there's no notes to pick up and read or terminals to hop on and see like what was this place.
You mean nobody recorded themselves dying and leaving you that last magic secret of their
man,
lives?
It's like
Manny?
they took our complaints.
Oh my God, I'm
seriously.
dying! But here, let me tell you about my love affair. Audio logs.
That's
for the
all
win.
prey, baby. That's all prey.
It is all prey. It
Fuck,
is.
I'm going
It
down,
is.
but first.
Yeah, but first, did you guys see South Park? The last game, they actually riffed on that really heavily. They had audio log where a guy's dying over time in that game. That was their entire
I still
it was
haven't
very well done.
Still haven't played that. I really need to take some
That's
time out.
coming to
and
the
play
Switch too, so maybe you pick
Yeah.
that up with the Switch.
That would be an excellent. That's an interesting point about the exploratory aspect of the Skyrim world. I'm one of the few players, and there's some people going to fall out of their chairs on this one. I played Fallout 4 like 100 hours in, and I had never played Skyrim. Skyrim is one of those titles that I heard about people playing on the console. It didn't really. I'm a sucker for stuff like post-apocalyptic. I'm a sucker for any kind of any sci-fi. The word I'm looking for escapes me right now, but the Middle Earth stuff never really grabs me the way it should. But I finally played Skyrim when the remastered came out, and I found the world to be a lot more fun to just go out and walk around in than I did in Fallout 4, and that really surprised me.
Yeah, I get that because one of our former hosts, Lone, he loves the Fallout series, but he's hardly played Elder Scrolls, and that's definitely a common thing. I mean, there's not everyone is like me and some others who just I love Bethesda Game Studios games where a lot of people are like, I just like Fallout, or some people are I just like Elder Scrolls, because I have fans on both sides of the fence. They only play Fallout or they only play Elder Scrolls. So I actually don't think what you said was too surprising. It's a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, like, you got that low entry barrier. Like, Skyrim is a good place, I think, for fans to start. Whereas Fallout, it's interesting because, like, you look at me and think, like, oh, he's loved Fallout forever. I've told this story so many times. Like, current listeners are probably like, oh my God, again. But, like, I fucking hated Fallout when I first played it. Couldn't stand it. And I played 3. I was like, all right, fine. I actually really do like this. And I played New Vegas for the first time. Fucking hated it. Love it now. Fallout 4 is the only Fallout game I played for the first time. And probably because I was so excited for it, I really liked it. But even with Fallout 1 and 2, I looked them up on YouTube. I was like, this isn't Fallout. I don't like it. It's a first person, third person open world RPG. Yeah. What is this? And then I played them, and I was like, and I played them again because a lot of viewers were like, just try it again. And I was like, oh fuck, this is really good. So Fallout's always been like that with me. So I mean, I'm trying to say, what you said isn't really too strange to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. The Nintendo Switch, though, performing well, making money, making me eat my words too.
Yeah, I think the early trailers for the Switch, we laughed terribly at that because it just seemed like the marketing was so. The reveal trailer was horrible. Mm-hmm. You got people at some urban rooftop party.
Oh my God, that rooftop party! I
what do you guys want to do?
Alone.
I don't know. Yeah. You guys want to play some Nintendo Switch at this awesome urban rooftop party? Of course. What else would we be doing? Yeah, we riffed on that mercilessly when that came out. Yeah, we thought it was dead in the water for sure. I had no idea this thing was going to do what it did.
I mean, you look at it this way. Think of not even the reveal trailer, like when they did the the conference for it, and they're like, let's switch, and they did that, and yeah, it was very, and I use this word very as little as possible because I can't stand it, but it was very cringe in many ways, and I'm just shocked that the internet has let it get to this point of complete success. They're not like, oh, this is kind of whack, man, like no way we're gonna let this succeed. So I was really shocked when I saw that because so many people were ripping on that conference.
Yeah,
all the memes that popped out of it. But now we'll switch to our last topic, courtesy of Brian. This is an excellent one. The convergence of PC and console gaming. Oh, crap. I never wrote down a fucking timestamp for when we stop talking spoilers.
Just add like 5 minutes or something. Because it wasn't more than 5
I don't think we went that long.
Yeah, I'll just say look for it. So it's a reminder for me to do that. Anyway, take it away, fellas.
Well, this is something that goes back a while for me because when Karak and I first got introduced and first started talking, we were both really... It was 4K panels were becoming much more prevalent in the home, and I think, Karak, you were testing a few in the house, and HDR was really coming out, and you were a huge proponent of HDR. And HDR for me remains one of those things that you cannot sell this to someone unless they see it in real life with their own eyes. Nobody believes you. It's really funny to me because like a really prevalent PC YouTuber recently has come on the record and said the exact same thing. HDR is the truth. It's the future. Unless you've seen it with your own eyes, I really can't sell you on it. When 2 years ago, PC guys were scoffing at this left and right because it wasn't a technology that PC was implementing. Still hasn't really successfully implemented on the PC platform. So for the first time, you saw consoles, and a bit of backstory, I dove out of consoles right at the tail end of the 360 PS3 life cycle. That's when I hopped back over to PC. I felt like I wanted more from my games, fidelity-wise. And this was the first time in a long time that, you know, you saw consoles pulling ahead in some area that the PC couldn't replicate. Didn't matter how much money you threw at your PC, it still wasn't going to do HDR. And you know, a lot of people scoffed at the fake 4K, the screen door, the whatever the term is, the cross hatching, whatever, checkerboard, whatever they used to do that. But it really, there were several games when that announced, like I enjoyed Horizon more on the console than I did on the PC. And man, you ever want to see a group of followers and subscribers get angry, go on the record and say some stuff like that to a PC crowd. And I thought they were going to tear me limb from limb for that. But I mean, lately, man, it's just looking at display technology, like we talked about the other day, for the first time ever, Xbox is going to support adaptive refresh technology.
Yeah, man.
This has been on the PC for a long time. And for those of you that don't know, adaptive refresh means that your screen is going to update at the exact amount of frames that your console or your computer is able to output. And it makes for an insane smooth interface. It's another one of those things that you really can't sell somebody on unless they've seen it 100%, like unless they've seen it in real life. But you know, the PC market arguably is in shambles right now. If somebody came to me and said, I have $500, I have $800, I want to build a gaming PC, I would walk their happy ass over to the electronics department and hand them an Xbox One X and say, there you go, have a blast, because it's not, due to some cost issues and especially cryptocurrency mining, which we won't get into, it's just decimated the cost for proper GPUs. Memory is extremely expensive. And, you know, like for the first time ever, SLI is really expensive to get into. That's when you have multiple graphics cards in your computer. And you don't see it really supported. You don't see titles that are PC exclusive that are really taking advantage of the extra horsepower of the PC. For the first time ever, I feel like the gaming experience you can have on a console is as close to you can get on PC, like ever. I think a lot of that's perpetuated by the game designers right now. You're seeing the games come out be more accessible across multiple platforms, and they're not taxing the computers the way that they used to. So, Karak, what do you think? Do you see a lot of this from your side?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about HDR. I think that is pretty much how we started getting, because I think you might have just, it's like how Maddie and I got to know each other. I think one of us liked a video of the other about HDR. Like that's sort of how it all started to boil up. And yeah. HDR is huge. And again, like you said, I couldn't sell it to anybody, man. And I test the fucking things, and I'll be all, no, come over to my house, and they're all, to see more color? The fuck are you talking about? Like, why would I give a shit to see more color? I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not just that. It's the nits level, the brightness level, all this stuff you got to go. And then they would come over, and I still remember I was showing Injustice 2 to somebody. They were playing the HDR version at my house. They went home, and he called me, and he's all, holy shit. I know what you're talking about now. Like if you had tried to sell me an HDR, I would have just been like, no, it's not a big deal. But he played a like for like title, like a Horizon or what have you, where that HDR support is one place and not the other. And I think it's a huge deal. I think the convergence is happening because of the price mostly. Like you said, it is fucking ridiculous that I bought a 1080 Ti and then 2 weeks later the price is jacked, and I sold the 1080 for more than the 1080 Ti had cost me.
Absolutely.
And it looks like it's almost runaway now at this point. Plus, you have the RAM costs. And I know a lot of people get mad. They're like, well, you can't do 60, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? As we move forward, they're just going to generalize for the console, because that's even where the company makes more sense. They're like, listen, you can't sell to the top 1% that just got smaller. It's like the 1% now of the 1%.
You're exactly
a fucking
right.
video card is over $1,000 that used to be $600. Like you almost have a fit. Well, and I think some are more than 50% or 100% increase now that I think about it. But it's insane. Cryptocurrency and all that stuff has it's changed the entire way an entire industry works. I bet you like a Microsoft with their Game Pass and stuff is sort of sitting back going, yeah, we'll let you play on both systems, because to them, to a PS4, PS4 Pro owner, whatever, it makes a little sense to just say, I'll just stick with the console.
It's an interesting point. I don't know if you can see my rig behind me, but this is the first time ever in history that I have put multiple GPUs in a system, and they're not the same. The reason why they're not the same GPUs, I mean, they're the same type of GPU, but different manufacturer, different build out.
Yeah.
The reason why is because it's entirely too cost prohibitive for me to wait around for that 3-minute window where the second card goes on sale, and then I'm going to pay a $400 markup for it.
Right.
The other thing with regard to Microsoft, this is an interesting tidbit here we didn't talk about earlier with Sea of Thieves. The entire time I've been playing Sea of Thieves, I've been playing on PC. Everybody else in my crew playing on Xbox.
Oh, wow.
Flawless, seamless for the first time ever. This is a conversation we had the other night out, and we were trying to decide if we could do this on Fortnite, because one of our crew wanted to stream it. In real life, friends, we wanted to stream the 4 of us hanging out, because we like to think we're pretty funny guys. What anybody else feels about that is irrelevant. But, we're like, is it possible? Well, then Sea of Thieves literally dropped the next morning, and I downloaded it. And I was playing with some randos before I even got into a game. And somebody said, yeah, it looks really great on the Xbox. I said, what are you playing on right now? Everybody else in the room was playing on Xbox. I was the solitary PC guy. I guess on Fortnite it works a little differently, but I think Windows over the past year has really pushed the idea of play anywhere now to the point where I kind of wish PS4 would just stop being dicks about it and just open cross-play up to everybody.
Didn't Microsoft say they were open to doing like anyone plays anywhere with the Fortnite? I think it was. They were like, let's get all consoles involved. So, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know all the tech shit, so I got to ask you guys, is there maybe a tech reason Sony's holding back? Because we'll say, for example, the only thing I know about is with the Fallout 4 console modding on Sony. It was very held back. It really wasn't a functioning system. They're not allowing custom assets. Is this something with Sony's infrastructure that's just not allowing these types of cross-platform playing?
I don't know if it's a tech thing. I think and this may completely sound tinfoil hat here, but I think more than anything, it's a political and a business thing. Because the issue when you have Microsoft Windows, everybody, like for a long time, when you say PC gaming, you kind of forget the fact that is brought to you almost in whole 100%. There are some offshoot OSs that people run, but the vast majority of people are gaming on a Microsoft Windows gaming environment. Mm-hmm. So when Microsoft starts to tear down, the reason why I endorse the One S is because the One S made an excellent companion piece for your living room for somebody that had a PC gaming setup, because it had the 4K Blu-ray capability. You had titles. I could sit down at my desk and play Forza, and then if I got tired of sitting at the desk, or if I'd sat at the desk all day at work, I could go flop down on the couch and fire up the Xbox, literally pick up my game right where it left off. Those were huge. It made a great companion piece. But with the convergence of the Xbox console and the PC, that Windows environment, now you've got PS4 over here and this gigantic conglomerate on this side. And I think PlayStation, Sony might be a little shook that if Microsoft can successfully bridge the gap between console and PC players on that side, they might be severely outgunned in the gaming landscape.
Also,
sense on it.
And it is for sure not technical, because remember, Fortnite accidentally turned on PS4 versus Xbox crossplay twice.
Did they really?
Yeah,
That's
they
happened?
accidentally.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not the only game that's done it where they're like, oh, whoops, that was a configuration error. There's 2 things to do with that. One, developers don't accidentally program an entire crossplay platform. It doesn't happen. Nobody lays down, wakes up, and goes, oh fuck, I randomly programmed this to work. It worked. They turned it on, and they obviously turned. People have said, "Oh, it was a configuration error." To configure 2 entire networks to work together, there isn't a configuration error. That most likely somebody internally was like, "We're gonna show that it is possible," because Sony has been consistent on saying no. It is probably fair to say Microsoft was the one saying no during the 360 era. I think that whoever's doing well probably says no. I think that's honestly.
Does it just boil down to competition?
I think so.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and whoever's on top probably says no. They're like, we're on top. Why would we let you rule the roost? Why would we let you even think you could? Because we're number one. And so now Microsoft is like, Microsoft's sort of running with it, and they have the backing of Windows, which, as Brian said, a lot of people will be like, yeah, man, not buying an Xbox, fuck Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to buy it on the PC. And I'm like, you do realize they're the same company, right? Like they're the games division of it. So you're not fooling anybody. Your money doesn't have a special note on it that when you buy something, it says, only send my money to this one section in Microsoft. That's not the fucking way the real world works. So I think with Sony, they're probably just saying no because they're the top right now. I think over time, they'll probably say yes to some things. Fortnite allows it, or we know it can allow it. What's the car one where you're bouncing soccer balls? No.
Rocket League.
Rocket League.
Rocket League, those guys have said it's possible. I would assume we'll see more and more companies just say, this is what we're going to do. Especially as we move forward and these companies are like, we want to release on all consoles. I mean, I think in the past, people thought it made more sense to sell versions. Switch version, Xbox One, and PS4 version, because you can't play with friends. I think now, as shit's getting expensive and stuff, gamers are far more fickle. Way more fickle than they used to be.
One of the hardest things about... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. That was it.
I was going to say one of the hardest things for me moving away from consoles was that I had to give up gaming with my in real life friends. I had to make all new PC player friends when I moved over to the PC ecosystem. And I'm really excited that may be a thing of the past here pretty soon. As a matter of fact, really, like we talked about how consoles are going to integrate adaptive refresh rate. They're not going to do that with TVs unless televisions somehow start supporting that. It's going to be monitors where that is supported. I'm anxiously awaiting the ability to bring my Xbox over to my main desk and pipe that in. The only thing holding me back right now is native keyboard mouse support, because sadly, now that I've accustomed to KBM, I'm just garbage on a console controller. I'm just on a gamepad for anything competitive. I'm just not there anymore. But the crossplay is super exciting, man, and it's interesting to see how they handle it. Fortnite's a really unique example too, because with Fortnite, you automatically get thrown into whatever they consider to be the superior ecosystem. So if I have 3 Xbox guys and I'm on PC, we automatically all get drugged into PC. The reason why they do this is because they don't want keyboard and mouse players having an unfair advantage against controller players, but it sure hurts the guys that come with you when you bring them over into the PC environment. Like there is a substantial difference there. Absolutely. So it's I'll be really excited. Microsoft has hinted at native keyboard mouse support, and I know that there's a device out there that allows you to do that on PS4. It has for a while. I think they're kind of hard to come by now. I've actually heard that some of the top-ranked players, like most of the top-ranked players, are all on a Zim, that they've completely abandoned the gamepad on that side.
I will say that I found that out. There was a reviewer that I was playing with, and I was like, damn, and they're like, dude, it's not a controller. There's no fucking way. I'm using it, because I was talking to them as we were playing, and they're like, no, I use this. And that's a big deal now to switch. I think basic mouse and keyboard, most likely Microsoft, because they're doing the Game Pass and they're doing Play Anywhere, like the ability to play Forza with one copy in 2 places blows my mind. I still don't.
That's awesome.
I don't even.
Love it.
Yeah, financially, that doesn't even make. I still remember I tweeted Phil Spencer and I was like, "Are you sure that's not a mistake? Like, what the?" Not because I wanted to stop it, but because it didn't make any sense that they would be like, "Just one copy will Play Anywhere." Like that's. So I think that kind of thought process on their part is good. It puts everybody forward. Then we see mouse and keyboard support at some point, especially as Microsoft understands that GPUs are so expensive.
They've leaked it already.
Yeah.
There was a leak that came out of Xbox Poland, came out at the end of December, that said, basically announced a little one sheet that talked about native keyboard mouse support. So on the next big desktop update, I think we can see that on the console side. It's enough to make me go out and buy a 1X right now. I'm there. Because one of these displays behind me will do 4K, 60, even over the HDMI. So that'll be it'll be a nice integration to the desktop. I'll just be happy to have my Xbox friends back, basically.
That's how I feel. So that's the primary reason I play on my PS4 all the time. It's because on my PC, it's a very limited crowd, and I'm like, I don't feel like going out and trying to make new friends to just play games with, and I got like 10 of them waiting for me on PS4. I'll just take a hit on console. I'm not very. You say you want the more graphic fidelity. That's why you dropped off, and I get that. I just never gamed like that personally. I'm just there for the fun and the story itself or whatever. So it's really interesting. But I do hope that gap continues to close, because I think it would. It's almost too good to be true, though. When you think about it.
It is, but if I hadn't seen, I mean, with the PS4 integration, it is, but seeing the foundation that Microsoft has laid over the past year to push this thing forward, I guess it's probably almost been like a year and a half, almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done good work in that space. I just hope it continues, because nothing is. I choose to play on PC for a variety of reasons. At the end of the day, I don't care what you play on. The last thing I'm going to do is get involved in some heated console war. Like, I can't believe you play on PS4 and not X. I don't care. Play on whatever makes you happy. Play wherever your friends are. Play whatever your checkbook supports. I can't imagine being so upset about what other console somebody else supports. So the more walls they can tear down on this thing, great. I mean, if I can switch over and play a high fidelity PC game, or I can switch back over and play on the Xbox and play with all my buddies, that's a huge win-win for me.
It's a strange line in the sand to draw anyway. Like, people are being murdered every day, and fucking, people just getting shot and killed, and we're like, I can't believe you're playing on the PS4. And so, wow, of all the things to not fucking take serious, it's the platform. It's far more to me about, like, the games. Well, for example, Matty's channel, Bethesda channel, it's not a PS4 Bethesda channel. Like, That would be ridiculous. That would be the dumbest fucking idea ever. So it's so cool to see, and I hope any other company that wants to do this. I like the fact that, like, NVIDIA Shield and all, they're trying different things. The more the merrier, because that means there's more places for a dev to say, I have an idea, and have that idea be different, and have that idea be a little unique. Because if everything's restricted, then there's just less of a chance something gets authorized, something gets accepted. Now it's like you have all these crazy games coming out, and for me, I think it's cool if anybody can play on anything, because I would rather enjoy playing the game than feel superior because I'm playing on some random platform they're not. It's a very odd thought process.
Yeah.
Matty?
Yeah, for sure. So, Matty, what kind of stuff are you playing on PC right now? You mentioned that you did have a PC and you play some Bethesda stuff.
Yeah, I have a gaming PC, and it's pretty much strictly for Bethesda stuff, and really review periods. Like, it's just for kind of the work side of things, I have to be completely honest. And when I'm in the mood for a Bethesda Game Studios title, and the Steam sale, actually, because outside of that, I don't really game on my PC that much. It's much more comfortable for me to sit in the chair over there, kick my legs up, and play on a bigger screen and talk to my
absolutely.
friends. And that's just how I've always gamed growing up. It's not like I can't change, but the idea of being hunched over where I work too, it's just kind of like I like the space over 10 feet to my left.
That was a huge factor, man. Moving to a desk to game was a huge factor, because it oddly felt like work when I first moved over. I was the guy that came in and plopped down on the sofa with a giant TV on the wall, and that's how I played my games. Yeah. So it was a really tough acclimation to get to be proficient at mouse and keyboard. Once I did, there was no going back. Once I became proficient with mouse and keyboard, I pulled off shit that felt like cheat codes. It felt like there was no way that I could pull that off if I was playing on a controller.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's our final topic, though. That was a good chat.
Excellent.
That was a really good one.
Yeah, for sure. How long was it?
1 hour 37 minutes at this moment in time.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah,
that's
solid.
Dude, we've done 2-hour ones. This is good. We've got 30 more minutes to talk about, like, something stupid. Is anybody playing? Well, okay, can't ask that question. Shit.
I was just about to say, watch out.
Yeah, I was good. Fuck. Okay, scratch that. Yeah, let's pretend I wasn't about to ask what people were playing. What are you going to play anything cool, Brian, this weekend?
The only thing I'm looking forward to right now is the Far Cry 5 release.
Nice.
Which I know nothing about, and you gentlemen probably can't discuss.
Anyway.
Oh, and we need a hashtag for this one. We've forgotten the hashtags.
Yes. All right. This hashtag will be... this is the part where you guys save my ass. We could go with...
Crappy ending. Sorry, but when Brian said that about Prey, it stuck with me the entire conversation.
Yeah. Crappy ending, man. That's fine with me.
Hashtag crappy ending.
Yeah, that's fine with me. So if you got
people
this
think
point
we
in
mean
the
for the
show, whether it was on iTunes, SoundCloud for the patrons, or you're listening on YouTube, tweet at any of the handles you see on screen with the hashtag crappy ending. We'd love to hear from you, and thank you for joining us in this wonderful journey. Speaking of, Brian, thank you so much for joining the show. It was an absolute blast, and you're more than welcome to join again at any point in time you would like.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me,
Yeah, it
man.
was a
Had a good
blast.
time.
Of course.
Yeah.
And is there anything you'd like to promote before we close this out?
No, just come check out the YouTube channel, BadSeedTech.
All right, awesome. Be sure to give him a look. Great guy, great content. And we will see you guys in next week's episode. Peace out.
Peace out.